For more, let's bring in Louisiana Republican Senator John Kennedy. Thank you very much, Senator, for joining the Sunday briefing. Pleasure to have you this morning, sir.
Good morning.
So, a lot of us who spend enough time around the president, myself included, sort of understand what he means when he's saying that affordability is a con job. He's pointing to the Democrats' ability to win on affordability messaging because he says that things were expensive under Biden and certainly not affordable. But not everyone speaks Trump, and Democrats are trying to seize on that. You had a senior Obama advisor posting a clip that you just saw with the caption, "Expect to see this clip in approximately 1 million ads over the next 11 months." Does President Trump, in your mind, Senator, need to come up with a different go-to line when he talks about affordability on this messaging tour?
Jackie, you don't need to be Euclid to figure this out. A few years ago, we had 9% inflation. Prices were going up 9% a year. That inflation didn't originate in a vat. It was man-made, and that man's name is Joe Biden. President Biden was an inflation machine. Now, since then, the Trump administration, Republicans in Congress, and the Federal Reserve have gotten inflation down from 9% to 3%. So things are better, but they're not well. The truth is there are limited things that the executive branch can do. Only Congress can solve this problem, and specifically the United States Senate. And what we need to do in the United States Senate is get up off our ice-cold, lazy butts and start passing bills. We don't need Democratic votes to do it. We can do it through reconciliation, just like we did the One Big Beautiful bill. We have over 200 tax code changes already that will stimulate the economy and increase wages. We've got a housing bill to reduce the cost of housing already in the hopper. Health care is another issue. We need to reform the ObamaCare. We need to go to site neutrality. We need PBM reform. There are a whole host of things we can do, and if I could do them on my own, I would, but I don't have control of the floor. And I have been preaching to my colleagues in the Senate for months now that we need to do another reconciliation bill. And I'm going to chase them like they stole Christmas until they agree with me. I don't know why we're sitting here doing nothing.
Okay. Well, in the meantime, while Congress works toward passing these bills, there is some work to be done for the president to turn attitudes around. You had a Politico headline that reads, "Trump's own voters begin blaming him for affordability crisis." This is according to their poll. The article says that nearly half of Americans, 46%, say the cost of living is the worst they can remember it being. 46% also say that it is President Trump's economy now and his responsibility to deal with it. And strikingly, his numbers there are weakest among people who voted for him but don't identify as MAGA Republicans. Do you take all that to be a warning sign ahead of the midterms that this coalition of new voters that were brought into the party and propelled President Trump to a second term, that coalition is falling apart over affordability?
I don't think the coalition is falling apart. I think that when the American people speak, you better listen to them. And I think that we need the president and the United States Senate need to be working on things that moms and dads worry about when they lie down to sleep at night and can't. And one of the things is the cost of living. And what I'm telling you is there are things we can do that the president can't do, but in order to do it, the United States Senate has to get up off its ice-cold, lazy butt. And you can't use the excuse, well, the Democrats won't go along with it. Of course they won't. But we don't need their votes. We can do it through reconciliation with a simple Republican majority.
Can you do something, though, on health care with the Republican majority only? Because, how can Republicans position themselves as the affordability party if you've got ACA subsidies expiring, premiums could end up doubling or tripling. And then, you run the risk of people looking around and saying, Republicans had a chance to stave off my near-term costs going up even further, and they chose not to do it. I mean, are we at a position now where you've got to just extend it temporarily, at least, while the bigger problem gets solved?
No, we need to do a health care bill as part of reconciliation. We need to invite the Democrats to join with us, and a few might, but most of them won't because they don't want to solve the problem. They want to maintain it as an issue in the elections. That doesn't mean we ought to do nothing.
Can you do that, though, before the premiums go up? Can you get that done before people start having letters in the mail that say, I'm going to be paying, double what I was paying before, and looking around and saying, whose fault is this?
No, and that's the Democrats' fault. They shut down government.
Yeah.
We should have been doing this, talking about this back in October. But frankly, back in October, we should have started a reconciliation bill, and the Republicans should have done this all on their own without Democratic support if the Democrats don't want to join us. We know how to fix the Affordable Care Act, ObamaCare. We know how to stop the fraud. We know how to do PBM reform. We know how to do site neutrality. We know how to design a health care delivery system that looks like somebody designed it on purpose. But I'm sorry, I hope I'm wrong, but I doubt it. The Democrats aren't going to help us. We've got it. No one's coming to save us but ourselves.
Okay. I want to turn also to Operation Catahoula Crunch. It is underway in your state with the support of state officials there. How important is it for the administration to highlight some of the bad guys, effectively, that are being taken out? Because the other side of this is you have critics that point to Operation Midway Blitz and statistics that there were, a majority of folks who didn't have criminal records at the time of their arrest. But we do know that there are serious criminals that are being removed. How does the administration best message this?
Well, here's what's going on in New Orleans. Legal immigration is legal. Illegal immigration is illegal. Duh. And the president has sit in federal officials to enforce the law because the local politicians in New Orleans won't. Many of the local politicians are friends of mine, but we just disagree. They are preternaturally and ferociously woke. They are. Many of them, I know them, many of them majored in online activism with a minor in puberty blockers. They think vetting people at the border is racist. They're entitled to their opinion, but they've got to follow the law. And all we're doing is enforcing the law. Look, the best way to avoid ICE is don't be in our country illegally. Duh. And many of, and it's not just the local politicians who are so ferociously woke. The local newspaper, the Times-Picayune, our major radio station, WWL Radio, which is owned by George Soros, they keep saying, no one's above the law. No one's above the law. Well, if no one is above the law, how come folks in our country illegally are? Yeah. Why don't we just enforce the law? And if you don't agree with it, go change it.
Senator Kennedy, we can always rely on you to put things simply and brilliantly. So thank you very much, sir, for joining us in the Sunday briefing this morning. Appreciate your time.
Hey everyone, I'm Emily Campagno. Catch me and my co-hosts Harris Faulkner and Kaylee McEnany on Outnumbered every weekday at 12 p.m. Eastern, or set your DVR. Also, don't forget to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page for daily highlights.